Hello, welcome to this week's 5 in 20, where we cover 5 topics in 20 minutes or less. I'm here with Matthews Barnett, our financial planning specialist. Today is company Braves Day, I guess. Anyway, we're 5 in 20 from going to the Braves game with the Wiser crew, so that's why we're wearing our Braves gear today. All right, I'm going to start with an article I saw in the Wall Street Journal. It's covering the COVID stimulus. So if you remember, we got $300 extra for unemployed, right? Well, half the states, mostly Republican, looked at it as, okay, we have an unemployment issue. People are going back to work because they're getting the stimulus instead. So they decided in June to cut off the stimulus, where the mostly Democratic states decided to keep the stimulus going and said that the problems had nothing to do with government stimulus. So where are we now in all this? So I found this very interesting. Let's see, all of the states that opted out of doing the government stimulus after June had June unemployment rates lower than states that had opted to stay in. So on the national average, unemployment went up by 0.1% over the month of June. But in states, and that's because more people were going back into the workforce. So that there's more people available to go to jobs. So it wasn't that unemployment went up higher, or the number of people weren't losing jobs, is what I'm trying to say. So, if you look at the states that decided to cut it off, more people went back to work. I'm guessing that's a good thing, that people went back to work. If you look at the money that was spent in states that opted out of the stimulus, they spent $125 billion in federal pandemic unemployment compensation. The states that opted in have at this point spent $275 billion in the same spending. So I just thought that was very interesting. You always wonder, okay, it's Democrats versus Republicans. People are very passionate about this, but the data speaks for itself in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately become a political thing right now, like most things. But like you said, the data speaks for itself. I mean, the unemployment rate's still at 6%, but you're seeing the biggest increase in the leisure and hospitality still at 9%, and that's kind of where we're seeing the biggest wage inflation right now is in that industry because having to incentivize people with raises and bonuses in order to make more than the current stimulus.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think stopping the stimulus is probably a good idea for most people, although my heart reaches out to someone who probably needed that and they didn't get it. Unfortunately, because of the actions of the masses, this is why we can't have nice things sometimes, right? Just like children. Okay. Buying a new car. Wow. I just say don't do it right now. This is crazy.
Next year might be the time.
I'm hearing some crazy stories. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if you've got hundreds and hundreds or thousands and thousands of Ford F-150s sitting with no chips in them, what happens in 2022 when the 2021 chips come in? Like, are there not going to be just tons of deals?
A lot of cars.
You would think.
Yeah.
Right? So I would keep fixing it at this point. This article, also in the Wall Street Journal, it says, it had a quote from Edmunds.com. It said, all of what you thought you knew about car buying over your whole life is now completely changed. And there's no doubt about that. I mean, we have a global chip shortage, which is straining new car sales. But then at the same time, it's led people to buy used cars, and there aren't enough used cars out there. So now we're pushing up used car prices. We know people that have sold their trucks for more money than what they paid for it brand new 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah. The used cars are coming close to a brand new car, which is also probably why J.D. Power did that study that the June average was close to $40,000 for a car, which is up 14% last year.
Yep.
But the used cars were almost $28,000, which is up 24% in 1 year. So pretty significant increases there.
Now there is maybe a safer play in this, in that large passengers, so your Suburbans, Expeditions, any SUV really, trucks, those are going for premiums. Again, 14, 24% higher depending on new or used. But there are still values out there in cars. We had a client recently purchase a Subaru, for example, and got a fairly reasonable deal on it. So that's something that you might consider if you're looking for a car. You might be okay, but
trucks and big SUVs are gonna be tough.
Yeah, other hacks that people have been doing. They've been going to New York and Washington D.C. Evidently, there's a large influx of cars available in those markets, and buying and bringing their car back down here. Another thing you might consider is leasing. The article talks about if you really want something, you got to have something, then maybe you lease it for 2 years and then hope that there's a better market. The only thing I'll add to that is if you lease, most leases have 10,000 mile limits. So if you're driving a lot, that could be a problem
for tough in a city
for your family. Also, you shouldn't underestimate the value of your old car, because if they're selling them for 24% more, that means they're also going to be giving you more money for your car on your end.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you usually think that, and it usually is, that a car is a depreciating asset, but because of that, the actual value of your trade-ins has gone up too. They're saying a car with 100,000 to 109,000 miles average was over $16,000, which was a 31% increase from previous year. So
31% increase in your old car value.
Right.
And it has over 100,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So it could be an option there for sure.
All right, next topic, lumber prices. So this is something that you and I covered in a previous 5 and 20, is how ridiculous lumber prices have gotten. To summarize, basically, we're down to $521. They measure it in 1,000 board feet. So per 1,000 board feet is $521.40. At the high, we were at 1,711. And the article, also in the journal, really talks about, some people they interviewed said that there's no reason why it couldn't fall back down to 300. But here's the thing. We had this price increase, which justified home prices going up, especially new construction. But when they interviewed home builders, they're very reluctant to lower their prices. So they're keeping the margin.
They want the higher margin.
They're keeping this higher margin, saying, oh, lumber prices have gone up. Most people who don't watch the 5 and 20 won't know that lumber prices have gone back down, right?
Yeah, they're down 70% since May, the highest.
So essentially, home prices won't be changing because of lumber prices. Now, I guess if you're building your own home and it's cost plus, then your prices only come back down. But most people don't build homes when they're buying. Most people buy homes that are already built.
I thought it was interesting. It was talking about the difference in home building versus multifamily and apartment complexes. With that increase in lumber, it was talking about a apartment complex to go from $3 million cost to $10 million cost. So a lot of these apartment complexes have held off because they have to order in such bulk that they're applying whatever the rate was at the time. When you're building a small place or a home, you're able to kind of decide when you want to buy that lumber, and it's able to pick and choose the cost.
They're talking about the cost of some apartments going from like a $3 million project would be $10 million.
Right.
So you just don't do it.
Yeah.
Because your ROI is not there.
Yeah. And you have to buy it, so you just hold off. But the other builders can kind of pick and choose when they're going to decide to do it. Interesting.
Home Depot, though. Home Depot is not keeping those margins. Home Depot is priced for 8-foot length 2x4. Went from $13.37 down to $9.17. This was over in Utah where they did that price comparison. Obviously, it's probably local or depending where the supply comes from. I think there's some other things coming down in price as well related to the lumber. And so that could help home building as well in the future. But unless people negotiate a little differently, it sounds like that new home price is going to keep right there at that almost near $400,000 national average level.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about in the past, lumber, steel, used cars, all this is going to be kind of something that's in a big topic here, probably till next year, just as the logistics settle out from COVID.
I've talked with Brad on the 5 and 20 back when I did the Crew 2 launch down in at the Cape Canaveral, and that was such a cool experience with my son and some close friends. Now we have Jeff Bezos launching into space. It's funny how people have really made fun of him this whole process. I thought it was cool. I'm kind of a space nut. It's a dork in me, I guess. So Jeff Bezos launches to space aboard New Shepard, his rocket ship. New Shepard has the largest windows of anything that's ever gone to space. His whole thing is space tourism, right? Him and Galactic, I guess.
Yeah, was that Richard Branson did it last week?
That's right. Richard Branson's. I don't know. To me, that's cooler. I mean, I'm more of a plane guy than a rocket guy, right? So the idea of dropped out of a plane and shoot up, and I mean that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was a battle of billionaires here to space.
It seems like there's less to blow up, but I'm sure it's equally as dangerous because Virgin Galactic actually lost one of their launches early on, which set them back a bit.
Right.
But what I found interesting was Wally Funk was aboard the New Shepard. She's 82 years old. Did you know that there was a Mercury 13 program?
I do now after reading, but I did not.
So there was a Mercury 13 program that was all women because they were going to send a woman to space. The one had to be the first ones. I think the Russians beat us there with the first woman in space, I believe. And so we were going to have a all-female space program. They trained. She was known for exceeding anything that a man could do. And she finally gets to go to space at 82 years old. I thought that was really
pretty cool.
82 years old, going to space with Bezos. And Bezos' brother, who is also on the ship. And then a young guy, 18 years old, who is supposed to be on the second launch, who got moved up to this launch because somebody who won the space in a charity auction couldn't go.
The oldest and the youngest, I think, to go to space.
Yeah, so we are setting all these records. Oldest, youngest go to space. That's really cool. And Bezos talked about Ms. Funk and training to do what they did. She outdid all of them in the training. But M13, I bet you that should have been in the history books a little more. Obviously, it would have been if they'd actually gone to space. What's interesting is, I did not get the full tour, so maybe it's there somewhere, but I don't remember seeing that at Kennedy, anywhere near the Apollo exhibit. I did not know that was a thing as well.
It was pretty prominent.
It was referenced in The Right Stuff, not the documentary, but the series on National Geographic. But I didn't know if that was actually real or not. Cool. Well, are you going to go to space?
I'm probably going to hold off on that a while. We'll see.
I watching all these people go to space, I would do it. I'd rather be on Elon's SpaceX, honestly.
Well,
at this
he's
point.
trying to go to Mars,
but I don't. Yeah, that trip doesn't sound like it would be 60 minutes.
Yeah, it might be a little more difficult. Living out Mars doesn't sound too awesome.
It might not survive it, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, just to get into space and feel the weightlessness and to come back down. Yeah, $125,000. Would you do it for $125,000?
I don't know. That would it cost him $10 billion or something?
Well, yes, he's got that.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting too that the whole reason they're doing this is for space exploration, about keeping the environment clean and all that. But imagine what it took to put them up in space right then.
That reminds me, in the article, I forgot about that. So one of the criticisms of Bezos is that he's spending all this money going to space because it's like a billionaire sport, where he could have been saving the environment. And I love his response. His response was, well, by exploring space, we can take all the bad industries that are destroying Earth and move them to space. And this is the first step in that. And what's so funny is that people that are bad-mouthing him for doing this probably actually believe that would actually happen.
Yeah.
We're oil, right? So that's a pretty messy industry that environmentalists don't like, and we're going to move that to space. That makes perfect sense.
Good luck.
We're gonna drill from space. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was hilarious. All right. So this last piece is probably a little controversial, but I like controversy. It's okay. I'm willing to stick my neck out there. This is a opinion piece. Andy Kessler, July 18th, Wall Street Journal, titled "How to Be an Anti-Capitalist." And I thought this is very interesting. How do we become an anti-capitalist? One is we're going to start by paying people to do nothing. We have 1.8 million workers, according to a recent poll, that have turned down jobs to generous unemployment. Meanwhile, Burger King probably in a blue state, is offering a $1,500 signing bonus. $1,500. I remember I used to mow lawns when I was a teenager, 16, 17 years old. No, 15 years old when I started mowing lawns. I think I made $600 the entire summer, and now Burger King is offering $1,500 signing bonus just to show up and flip burgers.
They can't find anybody.
Because they can't find anybody. Anti-capitalists want to shut down pipelines, except for the Russian ones, of course. Suspend drilling in parts of Alaska to help send oil prices above $70, while at the same time squashing energy options like nuclear power, right, that have very little repercussions as far as the environment goes. All while, we look at Mayor Blasio in New York, who helped shut down the nuclear power plant while telling the New Yorkers to cut back on energy usage during the heat wave last summer. Yeah, just use less. I remember that, right? They had blackouts, rolling blackouts all across New York because they didn't have enough power to power the AC units. Anti-capitalists would next restrict capital formation. So we have capital gains rates going from 23.8 to potentially 43.4%. Individual income tax rate going up to 39.6%, the highest bracket, of course. We're going to push forward antitrust bills that reverse mergers like Facebook and Instagram. They're going to push a $3.5 trillion spending bill unrelated to anything to do with infrastructure. Limit speech, open the borders, mess with education. Math isn't about the right answer anymore. I referenced that in a podcast recently that it's funny that 2 + 2 doesn't have to equal 4 anymore. You can have your own answer, which I just don't understand that. Defunding police to the point where now the police won't do anything about crime. Over in San Francisco, you can shoplift up to $950 and you'll just be hit with a misdemeanor.
Well, I live in the city. It's not any better in Atlanta. I know that for sure too.
So the police won't come after you if it's not greater than $950 because it's just a misdemeanor. Imagine being a shop owner, knowing that each single person could steal $950 and there's nothing you can do about it. That's crazy. And then obviously we have the Federal Reserve right now focused more on equity and climate change instead of actually creating jobs and holding back inflation going forward. So, and then he goes into other things that are I think a little harsh that I'll skip for this summary. But it's true. He says Mr. Biden's policies. I don't know if they're actually Mr. Biden's policies. I think they're I would call it the Biden administration's policies. Would likely hurt low-income folks the most by squelching capital formation and job creation, squelching opportunity, all in the name of squashing equity in the end. So that's what I love about the Wall Street Journal. You get both sides. So I read this and, part of me wants to get very, very angry about it and wants to say, man, this administration is just terrible and they're terrible for capitalism. And the bottom line is we're all responsible for ourselves. Yeah, there's going to be higher taxes in the future. There has to be. We went through a pandemic. We have to pay for stuff. But the bottom line is you don't wake up every morning and you go, oh, I quit today because there's just no reason to go out there and do anything.
There's not much you're going to change about being able to control this anyway. So it kind of is what it is.
It's still the best country in the world. People still flock here to do what they want to do because we have the best free enterprise. Are people upset that there are people out there who make billions and billions of dollars? Yes, they are. Are they jealous? Probably. Could they do it themselves? Most definitely not. But we still live in a great country. But I just want to remind our listeners that you can't focus on this stuff. You can't let this stuff steal your happiness. You wake up, look at your neighbor, to your left, to your right, across the street, and say, what can I do to make their lives better today? And I think if we just go along that way of helping people live better lives, helps you live a better life. What can you do to help someone else today? If we just take that mentality, that solves a lot of our issues right there. And then work hard. Work hard. That's my soapbox.
Work hard and have a good attitude.
Work hard, have a good attitude. It all works out in the end. It really does. If it's not working out for somebody, give them a leg up, right? We're responsible for that individually. There shouldn't be a government out there to do it. And the problem is I think we become so selfish that we forget to help others. So do that today. Go out there, help somebody else, make it a great day. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching today's 5 and 20. We hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon so you don't miss out on new videos. Head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out if you have any questions. We would love to hear from you. Today's episode was produced and edited by Lilton Moore.